Good morning from Yummy BTV. Wishing you all well, sending plenty of love your way as usual now. Another glorious Sunday morning coming down here. I've got a busy week ahead, like I told you on the live yesterday. So sorry that I was a bit disjointed in the park. I think the heat, some of you knew it was getting to me right now. First thing, Fred, we're going to go into a few things this morning, right now. I put a video up months ago when I was in and out of addiction. No excuses, right, for trying to be nice and without offending in some kind of way when I do things. And yeah, he's all right. He put a little bit in so that you're not going to make somebody feel too bad about themselves. Now, big question, Peter. You asked me yesterday, and I said I would answer it, and I would do more digging, and I've had more digging since I've been out. And like we spoke about recently, that my inside knowledge gets put together more and more with outside knowledge to go with what I have from my prison intelligence and resources over a number of years now. The Lenny Mclean, Dave Courtney thing, right? First things first, a couple who came into the comments on that video where I spoke about Dave Courtney and I mentioned a bit about Build a Bomb. There was no need for me to do that. So first of all, I have to apologise for that. A bit out of character. I wear my heart on my sleeve sometimes when I see people say things online, especially recent times, and I think, well, you can't really feel that way if these things took place between you and other people. You wouldn't be sending special love because I'm a man. If you did something really bad to me back in the day and you passed away, and sadly it's going to be a theme for all of us at some stage in life, but I wouldn't be up there saying that I loved him and he was a proper geezer and all that if he'd done me something bad. Forgiveness is always great, I get that, but I wouldn't do it up there. I would forgive from the heart without saying anything, and forgive whatever happened between you and certain people during gangland life, where a lot of men I find out here good at always talking about how they were and how hard they was and their part in things, but they never ever talk about the times when they were stripped naked and vulnerable, not literally, but where they became put on the spot and were victims in some kind of way as well, because we know there's always a badder man for the next badder man. Those are the facts. And many of you Lenny Mclean fans, for lovers, I say today that I stand by what happened on the visit with regkray over whatever the dispute was. Could be, we got certain things not the right way round. Lenny was very ill at that time, but the issue you asked me about the reasoning behind the fallout, Peter, you especially, and my audience as well, is that my belief right now is that Lenny didn't like certain things being said. Like, if you remember rightly, Dave Courtney says that he sparred with Lenny Mclean, and albeit, I hit the deck and there was 11 seconds and 10 of them was while I was counting. Dave Courtney's an entertainer and a joker, so whether he said that tongue-in-cheek or not is one thing. But I say, answering the question clearly, they never ever sparred, you know what I mean? And coming from all my sources, especially those who were around at that time, I know that one of my best mates, Manny Clark, sparred with Lenny Mclean. I know that Barry Dorton sparred with Lenny Mclean. And the other shocking kind of hearsay thing, and I put it out there, but it doesn't mean I'm right, remember that. But the documentary, Lenny Mclean, Dave Courtney, those rumours, that they're out there. I'm not saying anything that was thing, but Lenny didn't really look at Dave. They didn't have really that kind of friendship relationship. Two different types of characters when I put it all together. But there was a talk that staged to make it look like they were great friends, but there's also that talk about Lenny being given £2,000, £2,000 for making it look like TV, but he's all right, I think. But the truth of the matter is, I got that wrong. There's no way, absolute way, that Dave Courtney could ever fight with Lenny Mclean. All right. So whether I did it in that way, like I explained, that I don't want to put people down in that, because Dave Courtney played his part in that life, and I stand by that. He was other doormen and whatever, and the way his character was with people skills and his social skills, he had a bit more than a lot of those doormen in those ways. But we know, and he says quite rightly, I hear, that he wasn't really the greatest fighter, but you know, the lovable doorman kind of thing, who could look after himself. You know, I will not pour scorn on that. So I got that bit wrong, right? And rightly so. You know, Lenny Mclean, there's absolutely no way. And the other thing as well that we say about Lenny, that I said about Roy Shaw going into later life and taking on, you've got to remember Lenny Mclean with Cliff Fields and those other couple with Bill the Bomb, and you know, people of those figures. Not like Lenny ducked anyone. Do you see what I mean? Whether it be in the ring or the bare knuckles, mate. You know what I mean? So I'll clarify that. I'll make that pretty clear as well, with a lot of the big names that I talk to as well, and the information. You know me, I know people. I don't know when they tell me certain things. Now, the other bit you asked me as well about the Longfellow's relationship with Lenny Mclean. So I'll tell you this morning that the reality was that, Harry, you was absolutely right, mate. You was absolutely right. The Longfellow likes Lenny Mclean. Now, this goes back to the 80s sometime, right? I think Lenny was on the door, a couple of my mates, people that we spoke about, right, in particular. Anyway, don't say that bit. There was an altercation at the door. There was a young girl there, a young lady, probably in her 20s, 21, and Lenny felt that she was being violated and victimised by two men standing side by side with her, in the way that they were speaking to her and pointing and like doing that and waggling their fingers and that. Now, I don't know if Lenny Mclean got a slight cut over this, but there is a story that he got a slight cut interfering and, you know, doing the honourable thing by helping somebody. But on this occasion, he went in and he dealt with those two men. He didn't know at the time that the young little girl was related around, you know, the Longfellow, other distant relatives or relatives of some kind in that way. So, but the Longfellow's a lawman and he never forgets anything, mate. If you kept it proper and you kept it real and you done something, whether you meant it or not. So that early relationship with those two, I believe, was cemented by that. And after that, they had the utmost respect for each other. Lenny, we know, wasn't a Stonewall killer or nothing like that. He wasn't a big-time gangster. He was a geezer that could have a serious row, right? And and those are the facts. But with the Longfellow, it would have been what it was. You know what I mean? The ultimate respect, that kind of stuff. And probably they had some dealings while Lenny was working on doors, and you know, they probably would have been taught, you make sure that they come and they get looked after, Lenny, and do that bit for me and all that kind of stuff. And Lenny would have taken that on, not because he maybe was scared, but because of that relationship that they had. And that was I'm not saying that's the whole reason why the Longfellow turned up to his funeral, right? But there was, Harry, correctly, right, definitely love there for the Longfellow, for Lenny Mclean, probably more than any other doorman. So for him to appear there is a massive thing, all right? So I'll clarify that today, and I'll go into a couple more Lenny Mclean stories. And I don't want to badmouth anyone up here, but I won't sit back if you ask me my opinion. I mean, everybody seems to have their own opinions out there with what they tell people and then change their mind about what they said in books and that kind of stuff, right? You're meeting the real Yummy now, Samson, me. And when I speak from my heart, you know that whatever I said before would have been probably because I don't want it, you know what I mean? I'm playing that social media game and leave it, doesn't really matter to me. So whether I'm wrong, whether I'm right about the documentary, whatever, we won't get into all that. But I say to you lot, 91% of you out of that video I did, and loads of messages, yeah, you got that bit completely wrong, you know. You know what I mean? No, but we've got to be honest, you got it wrong, mate. Now, other thing I needed to touch on as well, I don't know whether you lot, because I see stories about regkray and holding parties and organising events for Mountbatten, Jimmy Savile. I met Mountbatten, the son or the nephew, didn't I? And I go into that story and I look back about the Irish thing one day, if you get what I mean, without saying too much what somebody might want to talk about. We've got to be careful about. But I met about Mountbatten in Idan in the 90s. He was doing a 4 perjury, something, or tax evasion, some kind of thing, right? Slim, oldish geezer with glasses at the library job and that kind of stuff. So I sit down and talk to him sometimes as well. And I knew that Prince Charles looked up to Mountbatten, the older Mountbatten, as a father figure, right? So I don't know if I got that right. But what surprises me, for all that talk of organising, we know what Savile was, and certain people later on in life turn out to be, you know, involved in sexual badness and deviance and whatever. I'm not saying Ronnie Cray, you know what I mean? I won't say that. But you was organising, or definitely that you played your part in that, and they used you and needed you for certain things at that time. So you became a kind of celebrity figure through certain things like that as well. But if it was the case of then being in such positions, why didn't some of them with that kind of power that they hold in a country that's run in a strange way? I started to listen to some of you lot. How come they couldn't get him out? You know what I mean? Why didn't you try and get him out, right? So it's the early morning talk from Uncle Yummy, but I've got more coming up in a minute. All right, loads of love to you all.